Here's a really interesting story that I'm genuinely split on, so I'm really interested to see what everybody thinks about this. A guy named Cornealious Mike Anderson was convicted of robbery in the year 2000 in Missouri, and he was sentenced to 13 years in jail. He was 23 years old at the time of the robbery, and the robbery was of a fast food assistant manager. And he waited to be brought to prison after, he learned his fate, and nobody came. So he actually picked up the phone and called his lawyer and asked, well, what am I supposed to do? Nobody's coming to get me. He even went as far as to call the state and ask why he hadn't picked up yet to be brought to jail, and nobody gave him an answer. And nobody picked him up. Well, 14 years later, a clerical error was discovered, and then they came to pick him up. Now, remember, keep that in mind. That's really important. 14 years later, they pick him up. So in that free time, when he was waiting to go to jail, he ended up doing a lot of stuff. So, for example, he got married. In fact, he was married, divorced, and then remarried. He had 3 kids. He runs a construction business. He coaches youth football. And he even volunteers at his church. And I read a few articles about this, and they all make clear that this guy is apparently a really, good stand-up citizen now, that he's like the epitome of what you're supposed to do as a member of a community. So he has completely turned his life around. Well, apparently when they noticed the clerical error, again, they came and picked him up, and the judge looked at all the facts and decided to give Anderson credit as if he had already gone to jail. And it was because his behavior was good. So now he's free. So, again, this is super rare. As you guys know who listen to the show on a regular basis, I rarely say, yeah, I'm 50-50 on that one. I'm usually like, this motherfucker, this is right and this is wrong, and that's it. No, on this one, I'm like, So the question is very simple. What do you think the punishment should be, if any? Should he have to serve the 13 years? Should he have to get a reduced sentence? Should he be totally free? Should he pay a fine? I mean, what do you do in a situation like this? And honestly, what it comes down to is, are you in favor of the model of criminal justice that says you go to prison to get rehabilitated? Okay, and you get rehabilitated and then you come out and you're supposed to, in theory, function properly because you were corrected by prison. That's one mindset for criminal justice, and we see that a lot in different European nations. We see that a lot in the Scandinavian region of the world. They gear everything towards rehabilitation. Then, of course, there's an old school method, and it's a more Americanized method of, no, it's about punishment, where we're just trying to get revenge, get back at you for what you did to somebody else, whatever that thing might be, and then you adjust the penal code accordingly to what we think makes sense generally in different circumstances. And then I think there's a third way, too, which is a mix of both. That in some cases you do rehabilitation 100%. In other cases you do punishment 100%. And in other cases you have to adjust the percentages. It could be 50% punishment, 50% rehabilitation, or you tweak it around the edges. And that's more, I think, what I'm in favor of. So a lot of progressives who listen to the show actually disagree with me on the issue of criminal justice, and they think I'm too conservative. But I think of myself as a moderate on the issue, and I try to, come to the best conclusion on a case-by-case basis. But on this one, I really am torn. Because if you do let him go, right, what you're doing is you're setting a precedent. And whether or not this is their intention and whether or not they realize it, what you are saying is, well, we don't really care that much about the crime of robbery. And, okay, you stole some shit, now you're being a good person or whatever. But that problem in and of itself and that criminal act in and of itself is not bad enough to merit some sort of, time behind bars or real punishment. So that's what you're saying, and the precedent is, well, if you rob somebody and there happens to be a mistake, you might be able to get away with robbery. All right, and is that going to increase the amount of robbery? I don't know. That's certainly a theoretical argument to be made in favor of that people could look at this and go, oh, I get it. So robbery is really not, I guess it's just not that serious a thing, and maybe we could always be reformed, so people could lean back on that and use that as an excuse in some cases. Well, we can always be reformed, and our society will allow us to always be reformed, and then you can kind of incentivize those kind of actions. Now, again, is that statistically proven? Is that a fact? No, but there's a theoretical argument to be made in that direction. And of course, the other argument is, well, look, if the whole purpose of going to jail is to correct a person and make them a stand-up citizen, mission accomplished, because this guy already is a stand-up citizen without even having to go to jail. So why would you want to punish further? Unless, again, you're just trying to do punishment, and it's not about rehabilitation. So what do you have to do in this scenario? What's the conclusion you come to in this scenario? Now, I know, I bet you anything that this is going to be split along a partisan divide, where all the Republicans and conservatives say, fuck it, send him to jail. He did the crime. He's got to do the time. It doesn't matter that there was a gap in between. Send him to jail. It is what it is, right? And I could see that the liberals will go, well, look, he's better. He's a stand-up citizen now. Isn't that all that matters? Let him go. It's fine. I'm in favor of a third option. I thought about this a lot, as you could tell probably. And what I would do is I wouldn't send him to jail because, again, in a case like robbery, so if it was a case like murder, I would send you to jail, okay? Because, okay, you did this thing. Oh, you became a stand-up citizen for the years while there was an error, but you still fucking killed somebody, dippity. You're going to jail. End of discussion, okay? But for an issue like robbery, it is a lesser crime. We could pretend like it's not, but it is a lesser crime. And you're acting fine. So I'm not going to send you to jail, but what I am going to do is fine you. And I'm going to fine you in a way that you do feel it. Now, I haven't really thought of like how long I would fine you for. What am I going to do? Like a year, 5 years, a little longer? I don't know. And I would make you feel it. I would, whatever it is, if it's the equivalent of another car payment, maybe. Like, okay, it's going to be $200 or $300 every month for the next X amount of years, and I'd give all that money to the victim, to the fast food assistant manager, when you robbed him. Like, if he's still around doing whatever, I'd funnel all that money directly to him, not to the state. You find it, you give it to that guy. But I don't want to just let him get away with it because you did do a crime, right? Okay, you're better now, but you still did a crime. And I don't want to send him to jail for 13 years because I think it's too harsh because clearly he's gotten better and he's essentially rehabilitated. So just to be at some sort of peace and think there's some kind of justice done where there's some punishment, I would fine the guy. I'd fine him a little bit where he does feel it, but I wouldn't send him to jail, and I wouldn't let him get off scot-free. But again, I could be swayed either way on this. I mean, that's my conclusion, but I'm on the fence about it still. I'm really, really interested to see what everybody else thinks about this.